Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am thrilled to continue our conversation today on self love deficit in regards to knowing what your love language is. So last time we kind of talked about you know, sort of the origin of self love deficit. And also remember, we stayed away from the word disorder. Why? Because it's a shame word, and shame words are dumb. Because shame words such as disorder lead us into feeling damaged and defective and flawed and just broken, right? And who needs that? If you've been labeled with attention deficit disorder, such as myself, though I prefer to say I'm in the Fast Mind Club, or you have bipolar disorder, or whatever disorder, it's not enough that you're challenged with something with a mood or attention or physically maybe, and now you got to think something's wrong with you. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. So that's why it just says self love deficit, because it is also not your fault, since the origin of self love deficit is typically from childhood. And the idea is not to blame those people either, grown ups, yes, obviously grown ups, usually your parents, the caregivers, even if they were 4,000% wrong and were abusive and whatever, because blaming doesn't get us anywhere at this stage in adulthood. It does well to explain, to reflect, and figure it out, but to blame just doesn't allow for healing. So it's important to understand where it came from. Okay, and it came from not having our own value and worthiness mirrored by the trusted grown-ups in our life, or usually our parents. Also, our uniqueness, the wonderful things about us, because that's how we learn about ourselves. Okay, all right, and then another quick recap before we get into the love languages is that the self-love deficit is sort of like most often, many times, something like that, leads straight to codependency. So the people pleasers and rescuers and those searching for external approval, sort of constantly, and reassurance constantly, and kudos and affirmation and all that stuff, that also often comes from the woundedness of childhood, which leaves us with this, gaping hole, of a self-love deficit. Um, and so we look to fill that up because it's excruciating. Nobody likes walking around feeling that type of wound, of course not. And so we seek out, ways to fill this up outside of us, and also in other ways. We talked about the people pleasing and rescuing and all that, and also we can try to fill it with alcohol, other drugs, shopping, sex, da 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 da. Also, okay, so here's the thing: there's all of that, and then if you're not aware of your love language, it can really you can really be barking up the wrong tree if you're trying to seek love outside of yourself, especially with a partner, but not necessarily, because our love language is how we express love, period. So it's important to know these, even if you're somebody without self love deficit, because anyone should really kind of be aware of what their love language is. So there's a book by Gary Chapman written a while ago called The Five Love Languages. And it's really important to realize that you may have all five. However, typically there's one dominant language for you, just like me, right-handed or left-handed. You can use both hands, but one is usually you're a little bit better with eating, playing baseball, hitting, whatever. You're better with it, soccer, left-footed, right-footed, whatever. So the very first one is words of affirmation. And so this is like, basically, lovely, very genuine compliments. You look fabulous today. Wow. Thank you for your incredible thoughtfulness. You have no idea how much I enjoy when you come in smiling. Da 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 da. Very genuine, nice things that we say to people. And the idea is the genuine part. And so that, remember, you can have all five or three or four or whatever, but typically one is the main way you express love. And typically the way we express love is the way we feel the most loved back. So you can figure out where the potential problema, disconnect, might be if people are not aware of their dominant love language. Because two partners, let's say, and it doesn't have to be partners, we said that, two partners, let's say, if one has the words of affirmation and the other one has, a different one's expressing in the way, but you want to get back the same way you express, but your partner's love language is different. They're going to be giving to you the way that they want to receive. And so that's why it's also very important to understand these anyway outside of the self-love deficit. All right, and the second one is acts of service or love in action. I have a lot to say about this one. This is the person who is very much all for the phrase "action speaks louder than words," and so this one is easy for me to talk about because this is absolutely positively my beloved husband of 30 whatever years, and he knows it because I've told him for years and years and years, and it's hysterical. So I'm thinking of there's so many examples. About 15 years ago, I went to the Bahamas with our two, well, then little ones, and I pulled over to get something out of there, and he had typed out all the directions, all these travel tips, all typed and printed and stuff very neatly where I would find them in the front of my suitcase. He had rolled up all these clean socks and puts, like, I think he put snacks in there, like, I wouldn't have even found it till I didn't pull over, and he's just such an action guy, and he doesn't tell me, he just goes and does something, and so, like, windshield fluid is another thing. I'll think I'll be almost out, then all of a sudden, it's just filled up, he says nothing, but I can see the empty canister, or an oil change. This morning, actually, can't make this stuff up, he was up early because it was so cold, and he made all the fires before he went to work, and he knows all to say, "Oh, honey, oh my gosh, I feel so loved. You changed the oil. That's my Romeo. Clean socks and an oil change." And that's just how he is. He's a love in action person. The third one is about gift giving and receiving. So, and this is actually not about materialism. We're not talking about Tiffany's jewelry. I mean, it can be that, but really this person's love language is about the thoughtfulness behind the gift giving. So this person might hand make something and personalize it. Maybe they'll make a quilt and a couple of squares, or if you're a skier, they kind of work skiing in there and surprise you with it. Um, Somebody can just thoughtful things, knowing you had a rough day and leaving chocolates on your desk at work, that kind of thing. Or but it's about the thoughtfulness behind it. So your partner or friend has a hobby with, maybe model airplanes from the World War II, and you're driving by a yard sale and there's an unopened box, there's only $1 and who cares, and you grab it just because you know they like it, that kind of thing. And that has them feeling more loved than anything. With I want to, smaller gifts, or they can be bigger ones. I just want to make sure I'm focusing on the thoughtfulness, not the price, because it's not necessarily about materialism. It's about you had them in mind when you came up with a way to elevate their mood, or just, wrap around them with comfort or whatever. And then the fourth one is quality time. So just remember, we can have any, one, two, three, four, or all five of these, but there's one dominant one. So this person wants your undivided attention, and not in a narcissistic way, or in a, selfish way. It's just there, and this can also speaks loudly to, or that would make no sense right there. Speaks to introverts too. That they don't have to be introverts, but introverts in general like just being by themselves, being with one person or maybe just two people. So this person wants, like, let's say a dinner for two, romantic or not, with all the screens off, no phones, no distractions, maybe just nice jazz music, walk in the woods, taking a day off to spend time with them. That right there is meaningful. Even if you spend no money, like you pack a picnic and go out in the back deck, or again and walk in the woods. It's not about that. It's about carving out the time for you, which is prioritizing you, which is the loving part, right? That's it feels really, really good, is the fact that the person's prioritized you and shut the world out as far as technology and stuff like that. So the quality time one is the fourth one. And then the fifth one is physical affection or touching. And this is not necessarily sexual, and people sometimes interpret it that way, but it's really, and it can be, obviously, but it's way more about the intimacy is what they're after. So if it is romantic, it's not just actual sex, it's holding hands, it's snuggling on the couch in front of a fireplace, maybe watching a good movie. It's maybe the partner, or maybe it's a friend or roommate, comes home from, a double shift of waitressing, and you kind of come up behind them and just give them neck rub or a back rub, and they feel the most loved and cared about when they are touched, again, romantically or not. They feel the most. And here's the thing too, when this is your love language, is affection, physical affection, all the nice, kind words, even though we like to hear those, all the words or gifts are not going to have this person feeling loved. That's just how it is. It doesn't mean they don't like compliments. Of course, we like compliments, but it doesn't reach them on the deep, like kind of core level, like massages do, or hugs, touching, snuggling, face caressing, just holding their sort of like their face in your hands, giving them a kiss on the side of their cheek. They're all about the touch, and that is when they feel the most loved and cherished by you. So again, the five love languages by Gary Chapman are super important for all of us to know. Think about it, because if we're looking to be loved in a way that's, with, let's say, with a partner, and they're two different love languages, think of what a disconnect that is. And even though you still may get along great, think of how much better the relationship can be. You're like, oh, you're an action person, like my husband is, and then realizing when he does the oil changes and fills up the windshield stuff and leaves clean socks in my suitcase, that's his way of I love you to the moon and past the stars and all that stuff. So the person who is challenged with self-love deficit from woundedness that happened early on, think about how this could feed into the confirmation bias. Think about if their love language is, your partner's is gift giving or action or one of the other ones, and then yours is physical affection. So maybe they brought you flowers, or maybe if they're an action person, they changed your oil and did all this stuff and did all these thoughtful things for you, but they don't want to hold your hand or touch you as much. All the words and gifts, all the nice words, even though we like compliments and all the gifts, aren't going to have the person who has the fifth love language of physical affection, is not going to have them feeling loved. I mean, it's still nice, feels good, but it's not going to warm them up in their core, because that isn't their love language. So think about the person who struggles with self-love deficit. That's confirming, like, what's the matter with me? They don't even want to hold my hand. What's the matter with me that they don't want to give me a massage? What's the matter with me? They want to touch me, or maybe they are, but just not to the degree that you need them to touch you. Like they're just not, it's not enough. And, that can feed right into the toxic internal dialogue of I'm not worthy of being loved. I'm not valuable. I'm not attractive. I'm not smart enough, thin enough, blonde enough, brunette enough, whatever enough, outgoing enough, whatever. And it can feed into all that, because that your love language, you're not feeling loved simply because it's not a love language. The expression of their love language is different than yours. So it's really, really important for those with the SLD going on to really just be cognizant of the potential disconnect to avoid further injury. Okay. And that's it. So, no, it's not it. Not it. Well, coming back. So what I'd like for all of you to do who have this, and real disclaimer, realize that none of these videos are in place of professional treatment. Of course not. They're informational only, and they can complement all of that. So what I want you to do is focus your life minutes, the high majority of your life minutes, which is your energy, on filling yourself up, doing what makes you happy. Buy yourself flowers, buy yourself an outfit. I don't mean to have the emphasis on money. Carve out time in the day for just you to go out into the woods, to garden eventually when it's time for that, or to garden on the inside if you want to do. I started bonsai trees, very cool. Carve out love time to just love yourself, you time to just love yourself, time out on a slow Saturday or Sunday to bake cookies and then stick a huge spoon in the cookie batter like when you're a kid, and just treat yourself well, pamper yourself in whatever ways that means. It doesn't mean money. It means time, and it means thought, and maybe small things that involve a small amount of money, like flowers, or treating yourself to a takeout lunch because you just don't feel it, or dinner, or whatever. But to really learn how to prioritize yourself, because remember, it all goes back to we cannot give away what we don't have. So the number one relationship in your life is you. Love yourself right up. Just fill yourself up till your cup runneth over. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day of loving yourself.